What's it really like to live under the blinding lights of fame, where every smile is judged and every flaw is front-page news? Marilyn Monroe knew that reality better than anyone. To the world, she was the ultimate Hollywood dream, beautiful, glamorous, untouchable. But behind that image was Norma Jean, a woman dealing with loneliness, heartbreak, and pressure most of us can't even imagine. She wasn't just a pretty face, she was a person who paid a heavy price for the life people thought she had. Today, we're stepping into her world to see what fame really cost her. And trust me, by the end, you might never look at her the same way again. From the second Marilyn Monroe hit the big screen, people decided who she should be. They didn't want Norma Jean, the shy, thoughtful girl who grew up in foster homes. They wanted Marilyn, the blonde bombshell, the perfect smile, the fantasy. Everywhere she went, she had to live up to that image. And here's the thing, once the world falls in love with a version of you, they don't usually want to see anything else. That's the trap Marilyn fell into. She could be surrounded by fans and still feel completely invisible because deep down she knew. They weren't really seeing her. They were seeing a role she had to play every single day. Marilyn Monroe didn't just happen, she was made. Studios shaped her into a marketable dream from head to toe. Her brown hair, gone, dyed platinum blonde. Her clothes, designed to turn heads. Even her soft, breathy voice was part of the act. Every interview, every photo shoot, every public appearance was carefully staged. And while that transformation made her famous, it came at a cost. Imagine having to perform being yourself 24/7, only it's not really you. The more people adored Marilyn, the more Norma Jean disappeared in the background. Over time, she wasn't sure where the performance ended and the real person began. And that's a dangerous way to live. Marilyn's childhood was anything but glamorous. Her mom struggled with mental illness and couldn't take care of her, so Marilyn bounced around between foster homes and orphanages. It was a life filled with uncertainty and a constant search for safety. That kind of instability leaves marks. You grow up learning to adapt quickly, to be whoever you need to be to fit in. It's a skill that helped her survive Hollywood, but it also left her with deep emotional wounds. No matter how much fame or money she had later, part of her was still that little girl, hoping someone would finally stick around and make her feel safe. Hollywood doesn't just love perfection, it demands it. For Marilyn, that meant always looking flawless. Studios controlled everything, what she wore, how she acted, even what she ate. One bad photo could cause headlines, so she lived in constant fear of slipping up. The film industry worshipped youth and beauty, and Marilyn knew her career clock was always ticking. That pressure was exhausting. Behind the scenes, it chipped away at her health and self-esteem. For her, perfection wasn't about confidence, it was about survival. And when you're constantly told you have to be perfect, it's hard not to believe you're only worth as much as your last glamorous photo. Marilyn wanted what most people want: love, security, someone who saw the real her. She married baseball legend Joe DiMaggio and later playwright Arthur Miller. And for a while, it seemed like she might have found that stability. But fame complicates everything. Being married to Marilyn Monroe meant sharing her with the world, and that strain broke both relationships. In private, she wrestled with fear of abandonment, and each failed romance deepened that wound. She wasn't just looking for a partner. She was looking for someone who could love Norma Jean as much as they loved Marilyn. Sadly, that was a kind of love she rarely found. Fame looks glamorous from the outside, but for Marilyn, it felt like living in a glass cage. Every move she made was public property. Paparazzi followed her everywhere, reporters dug for dirt, and rumors spread like wildfire. Sure, the applause felt good in the moment, but it came with constant judgment and zero privacy. Even her most vulnerable moments were turned into headlines. Over time, the pressure to always be on took its toll. She could be in a crowded room, adored by everyone, and still feel utterly alone. The spotlight didn't just light her up, it burned, and it burned deep. Marilyn was living two lives. In public, she was the confident, flirty icon the world couldn't get enough of. In private, she struggled with depression, self-doubt, and sleepless nights. Friends who knew her well saw a completely different person. Thoughtful, intelligent, and often deeply insecure. That constant back and forth between who she was and who she had to be was exhausting. It's like she was stuck between two worlds, one that worshipped her but didn't know her, and one where she could be real but rarely felt safe. And over time, that kind of emotional split starts to wear you down. In those days, Hollywood had a quick fix for everything: Pills, trouble sleeping, pills, trouble waking up, different pills, feeling anxious, more pills. Marilyn was caught in that cycle. Doctors prescribed her medications without much concern for the long-term effects. At first, it probably felt like a lifeline, a way to get through the constant demands of her career. But over time, the dependence grew. The more she leaned on them, the harder it became to function without them. Those pills blurred the lines between her performance and her reality, making it harder and harder to step away from the role she was trapped in. Marilyn wasn't just a pretty face, she was a thinker. She loved reading, writing, and discussing big ideas. She pushed for better roles, fought to be taken seriously, and even started her own production company to gain control over her career. In a time when women in Hollywood had little power, that was groundbreaking. She understood the trap of being valued only for looks, and she spoke out about it. These conversations are still happening today, which tells you just how ahead of her time she really was. She wanted the world to know she was more than the image on the poster, and she was right. If Marilyn had the tech we have now, things might have been different. Imagine her using artificial intelligence to control her image, speak directly to her fans, and bypass gossip magazines altogether. She could have used private AI-powered mental health support, tracked and managed her media coverage, and maybe even found some real control over her life. Of course, technology can't fix everything, but it could have given her more power in a world that constantly took it away. Maybe then, Norma Jean and Marilyn Monroe could have coexisted, instead of one slowly erasing the other. By the early 60s, Marilyn's life was a mix of career struggles, broken relationships, and declining health. She was dealing with heavy media scrutiny and deepening dependence on medication. On August 5, 1962, she was found dead in her home at just 36. The official cause was probable suicide, but the details are still debated. No matter what you believe, it's clear the constant pressure, loneliness, and demands of fame played a huge role. Her death shocked the world, but for those who knew her struggles, it wasn't just a tragedy. It was a heartbreaking confirmation of how dangerous life in the spotlight can be. In a strange way, Marilyn became even more famous after she was gone. Her image is everywhere, posters, movies, pop culture references. But it's almost always Marilyn, not Norma Jean. The world remembers the fantasy, not the woman. That's the price of her immortality. She's frozen in time, forever young, forever beautiful, but forever misunderstood. Her story forces us to think about how we treat the people we idolize and whether the cost of that adoration is worth it. Marilyn Monroe will always be an icon, but the human being she was, that's the part we can't afford to forget. Marilyn Monroe's story isn't just about Hollywood. It's about what happens when a person becomes a product. She was loved by millions but often felt unseen. Her life is a reminder that fame comes with a cost, and it's not always one you can see from the outside. If her story hit you as hard as it hit me, go ahead and like this video, share it with someone who should hear it, and subscribe to Behind the Glory. We've got more real stories of the people behind the headlines, and trust me, you don't want to miss them.